Welcome to Live Interactive English. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
And I'm Winnie.
And it's hot, Winnie.
Very, very hot.
It's summer in Taiwan, but I could be living on the sun. It's so hot.
It is terribly hot.
It's July. It's going to be August soon. It's actually going to get hotter next month. So we might not be here next month. You might watch the show and we'll be a small puddle of, body sitting on these chairs. But so far we're holding it together.
We're okay
even though it's very difficult. But today, this is the good news. We're going to be giving you good tips to beat the heat, staying cool without air conditioning.
That's our worst nightmare.
This is not even true. This is fake news. You can't stay cool. No, actually you can stay cool. You can, and you should try.
I mean, yeah.
As long as you can. It'll save you money.
It will save you money.
It's good for the planet.
Environment, yeah.
True. As you travel, sometimes you don't always have air conditioning, right?
It's not always up to you.
When you're not at home, for example. So we're going to give you some good tips. What are some tips for you? Because I know you and I both have the same relationship to the heat.
We run hot.
We hate it.
We hate it.
We hate
Absolutely
the heat.
hate it.
Yeah. So what do you do to stay cool without air conditioning?
Oh, I just go directly for the freezer and shove a bunch of ice cubes into my clothing.
Okay, so you turn into a polar bear. Yeah. Basically rubbing yourself on an iceberg.
Exactly.
Or pouring ice cubes down your shirt or wherever. That's a good idea.
What about you?
I don't stay cool without air conditioning.
It's not even an option.
The one good thing I have, and we might actually mention this in the article, is I'm lucky enough to have a home with rather high ceilings. So I have one of those fans.
Okay.
It's like a lamp, but it also has a fan. It helps a lot.
Yes.
I still need the air conditioning, but I set it at a higher level.
Right.
So I save money. The air conditioner doesn't work as hard. And that big fan is kind of moving the cooler air around. So that's what I do. But I still stay home, and I keep the windows closed, and I try to wait until November.
Avoid going outside.
Basically, yeah, that's what we do. But there might be other ways, so let's find out how to beat the heat and stay cool without air conditioning, if that's possible.
While summer heat may be good for trips to the beach, it can be unpleasant and even dangerous. To protect ourselves from high temperatures, we usually turn to our air conditioning units. But AC wasn't invented until the early 1900s. So how did people stay cool before that? In the past, buildings were constructed to stay cool naturally. The Romans had large courtyards in the centers of their houses, which often had fountains and pools in them. These features allowed cool air to flow around the buildings. In Greece, houses were often painted white to reflect heat from the sun, and many Greek houses still use this technique.
All right, so let's get into beat the heat, staying cool without air conditioning. And that's an interesting expression there in our title, beat the heat. That means sort of not getting too hot. Don't let the heat control you or beat you. If you beat the clock, you do something when time is running out. If you beat the odds, you're lucky in a situation where you could lose, but you win out. So here, it's difficult. We can't just, suddenly make it winter, although that would be nice. I wish
that was true.
That would be nice. So how can we beat the heat? How can we let the heat not bother us too much?
Okay, so while summer heat may be good for trips to the beach, it can be unpleasant and even dangerous.
It's true.
That's true. That's true. To protect ourselves from high temperatures, we usually turn to our air conditioning units.
Yes, we do. That's exactly what I do. Once the temperature gets over, 26, 27 degrees, it's time to turn to our air conditioners. That means use our air conditioners, right, to cool us off. But, as the article continues, but AC wasn't invented until the early 1900s. That's right, it's only been around a little bit more than 100 years. So here's our question. So how did people stay cool before that?
That sounds like a nightmare.
I guess they rode on horses. Just ride around.
Let the horse deal with the heat.
The nice breeze cool you off. I don't know, but maybe that's why they had wars back then.
Just to cool off.
Everyone was too hot. They got angry and had wars. So yeah, how do they beat the heat in the past? Well, it says in the past, buildings were constructed to stay cool naturally. True. They didn't all live in tall buildings with thick glass windows.
And we have to think 100 years ago, our planet was a very different climate.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It might have been a cooler planet. Even if it's a few degrees cooler.
Makes the difference,
It would make a big difference. But it's true. Buildings were constructed in a different way using different material. To construct is to build. Basically, you're building something, you're putting pieces together in order to make a building. You could put pieces together in order to make a car. You could put pieces together in order to make a really cool Lego castle for Harry Potter to play in. But you're putting pieces together to make something, to build something like a building or a bridge. In our example sentence, the bridge was constructed in just under 2 years. That was constructed rather quickly.
Many buildings in Europe actually to this day still don't have many, air conditioning units.
True.
That's brutal in the summertime.
Absolutely.
Continuing on, the Romans had large courtyards in the centers of their houses, which often had fountains and pools in them. That's pretty cool.
They did.
These features allowed cool air to flow around the building.
Interesting. I mean, I've seen pictures of that, and it always looks lovely. Nice little atria in the middle of your building. But it's true, with that cold water fountain, it might blow that sort of water, little drops of cool water, and that would be absolutely lovely. So that was very smart thinking. Of course, Italy gets very hot in the summertime, as it does here. And a fountain would be a nice thing to have around.
Right. And so what is a fountain, right? It's a noun, and it's basically just a structure that jets out water. Although, and I'm sure Mike knows this, sometimes it's used for culinary purposes. Like in a really fancy restaurant or a buffet where they have a chocolate fountain.
Oh, a chocolate fountain. I'm scared of those.
Really? Like unhygienic?
I always see kids putting their hands in them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good point. So for example, Sean threw a coin into the fountain for good luck. Every time I see a fountain, just for good measure.
That's absolutely 3 coins in a fountain. Very famous song. Yes, and fountains are often, we find them in front of big buildings, maybe in a beautiful park,
with
something
a
like that.
statue or something.
Really just for decoration, right? You might have a few statues, you might have some swans or dolphins spitting water out of their mouths. But it's something people make for beauty, but also we've learned to keep the environment cool. That's kind of neat. In Greece, let's move over there, very hot, just like Italy or Taiwan. In Greece, houses were often painted white to reflect heat from the sun, and many Greek houses still use this technique. This is actually quite effective. I've seen other places in the world, they're kind of encouraging people to paint their houses white, paint your roof white, because of course, as anyone who knows, anyone who's worn a white shirt or a black shirt on a hot day, you'll know that that white shirt will keep you a little bit cooler because it reflects the light. To reflect is basically to have something hit something and then bounce back. The most simple way to think of this is to think of the way light reflects off things. If you're walking down the street and the light hits a window on a building, it might shine into your eyes in a painful way. That light is reflecting off that window. And of course, when we look at a mirror or in a window where we can see ourselves, where we can see our image, that is because the light is bouncing or reflecting off that glass and then going into our eyes. So if something bounces off something, we use the word reflect. Sound can also reflect. If you're ever in the mountains and you go, hey, 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 and you hear your sound repeating back to you, that is because the sound waves are reflecting off the mountainsides. Here's an example sentence. A mirror reflects light. Well, of course, the light is doing the reflecting.
Well, have you ever seen that video of someone taking an egg, cracking it on a sidewalk? Because it's so hot.
Oh, okay. I thought the egg was going to be reflecting or something. Yes.
Because it's black, right?
That's true, and it's just hot.
Yeah, so that is a very good tip. Paint your house white.
Right.
Okay, and then we have our vocab, which is technique. That's our noun, right? It means a way of doing something or carrying out a certain task. So for example, some tribes have been using the same techniques to build their homes for thousands of years, which brings me to one fun fact fact, they used to make, or sometimes still do, make their houses out of mud and sometimes animal
Dung?
Very good word.
Poo?
To keep it insulated and keep it cool.
I see. And poo's free. That's another good thing
That's
about
very
poo.
Good. And it keeps you slim.
Okay, I don't think I'll be moving into a poo house, but I will be wearing a white shirt. White clothes, that is a good way to keep yourself cool in your nice, cool white house. Let's take a break and then we'll be back. Man, it's hot in here.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。今天的课文标题是 Beat the Heat。Staying cool without air conditioning。那补充一下 ，air conditioning 就是指空调，可以简称为 AC。那么 beat the heat 字面意思好像是击败暑气，它就是指消暑解热。而 Mike 老师他补充的 beat the clock。字面意思是击败时钟，它其实是指说在特定时间前赶完。还有呢 ，beat the odds 则是表达克服万难，成功克服困难。好，那炎炎夏日可能会让人觉得不舒服，甚至中暑。那我们为了保护自己免受高温伤害，通常就会开始用空调装置。可是啊，这个空调呢是到20世纪初期才发明的。那就想想看，以前的人是如何保持凉爽的呢？好，我们课文写到说，在过去，建筑物的建造是以自然方式来保持凉爽。像罗马人的房子中央有很大的庭院，里面常常有喷水池，还有水池。那这些功能可以让冷空气在建筑物的周围流动。而在希腊，房屋经常被漆成白色来反射太阳的高温。那现在许多希腊房屋仍然是使用这一项技术。好，那刚刚说到房子中央的庭院，我们补充一下 atrium，atrium，atrium 可以指这个中庭、天井。Mike 老师则是用到它的复数形是 atria，A-T-R-I-A。好，再看到单字 construct， 它是动词，表示建造、修建或是构筑。Fountain 则是喷水池、喷泉。老师们聊到巧克力喷泉啊，可能会有小朋友就是忍不住伸手去摸，好像不太卫生。那我们学一下 unhygienic。unhygienic 就是形容不卫生的、不干净的。下一个单字 reflect， 它是动词，可以表达使反射或者是反应。Technique 则是指技巧、技法。那我们在讲到这个房屋的建筑材料技法时，老师们有提到这个 animal dung 是动物的粪便，然后还有提到 insulate 这个动词 insulate insulate 可以表达使隔热、使绝缘的意思。好，那这边3个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是 protect somebody from 加上名词或动名词，这表示保护某人免受什么什么，保护某人不要怎么样怎么样。举例来说 ，wearing a mask can help protect you from the flu。戴口罩有助于保护你免于感染流感。那第二重点是 turn to 的不同意思。第一个呢，可以用来表达开始使用、从事某个新的事物，那后面是要接名词或动名词。例如 ，Barbara turned to volunteering after she retired。Barbara 退休后开始做志工。那第二个呢，可以表达出求助于什么什么的意思，后面可以接人或是事物。例如，Do you have anyone you can turn to for emotional support？ 你有可以寻求情感支持的对象吗？那第三个表达的意思是关注、注意，可能注意特定话题，或是将注意力转移到什么什么，后面是要接事物。例如 ，Let's turn to the next topic。我们转向下一个主题吧。再看到第三个重点是 not until 的用法。until 可以当介系词或是连接词，搭配否定的主要子句时，可以表达直到什么才开始。那句型是主词加上 not 加动词 ，until 后面接名词或子句。我们看2个例句 ：She didn't go to bed until midnight。直到半夜她才上床睡觉。She didn't go to bed until her parents came home。直到爸妈回到家，她才上床睡觉。好，接回到课文中。
Similarly, some buildings in hot Middle Eastern countries have high ceilings that allow heat to rise and escape. In the southern United States, meanwhile, older houses often have porches, which were built to provide occupants with a space where they could enjoy an outdoor breeze, but be protected from the sun. Building structures out of stone or carving houses into rock are two other traditional methods of creating cooler living conditions that have been utilized across the world throughout the past.
Welcome back from the break. As we can recap, we learned that in Rome, they stay cool by putting some pretty cool fountains inside of their homes / pools. And also in Greece, they beat the heat by painting all of their buildings and homes with white.
That's right. You can still see it now, right? A lot of people have those very popular tourist shots of the Greek village on the side of the hill, and all the buildings are white with blue domes, blue roofs. So let's stay around that part of the world. It's always very hot around the Mediterranean. We're moving slightly to the east, to the Middle East. It says similarly, some buildings in hot Middle Eastern countries have high ceilings that allow heat to rise and escape. It's very true. If you have high ceilings, of course, heat rises. So hopefully that hot air will stay up there near the ceiling. And if you have a nice big window, the big room allows the wind to kind of, swirl and turn around.
That's kind of like your technique.
Kind of like what I do at my place. I was also, where was I? I was in Vietnam not too long ago, and I noticed some of the old buildings there. Also very narrow, not too wide, quite narrow, but very tall. Probably for the same idea. Now let's move somewhere else where it's also hot in the southern United States. Meanwhile, in the southern United States, older houses often have porches, which were built to provide occupants with a space where they could enjoy an outdoor breeze, but be protected from the sun.
With a mint julep
With a nice mint julep there, sitting on your Georgian plantation. Life was... Well, it was what it was. So think of a porch kind of like a balcony. If you live in an apartment building, you might have a little balcony. This is an outdoor floor area where you can go outside and you can look outside. You might be far off the ground if you have a balcony in an apartment building. But a porch is similar. It will be attached to a house, so it will usually be on the ground level, covered with a small roof, and it might go right around the outside of the house. You can sit out there, and especially in the late afternoon, the morning, the evening, and the cooler parts of the day, the wind might come along and cool you off. Certainly nicer than being inside the house with doors and walls and windows between you and the breeze or the cooling winds.
Yes.
What else can we do?
So continuing on, building structures out of stone or carving houses into rock are two other traditional methods of creating cooler living conditions that have been utilized across the world throughout the past.
That's very true. If you ever go down into a basement or into a cave.
It's much cooler.
Much cooler.
Yes.
Good idea.
So we have our word carve, okay? That's our verb. It means basically to form a design or a shape by cutting into something. So for example, the artist carved lovely patterns into the piece of wood. Very cool.
Yep, absolutely. We could also probably say dig. They used to dig inside. Carving might be with your hands on something small. Digging would be like a miner cutting into the side of a mountain. Both of them, though, you're removing material to make things. In this case, make a cool space to hang out in. If you have a nice mountain nearby to
probably not as
carve
doable, but
into, I couldn't do that.
I'm looking forward to learning more ways to beat the heat.
And we will do that tomorrow. So stay cool, be back here with us, and we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
好，在炎热的中东国家，有一些建筑物天花板很高，那就可以让高温上升并散去。而在美国南部，老房子通常都有门廊，这是可以让居住者享受户外的微风，又免受阳光照射的空间。好，那这时候 Winnie 老师有提到一种跟美国南部美食有关的鸡尾酒，叫 Mint Julep， 是薄荷朱利普。那么 Mike 老师则提到 plantation，plant 后面加上 ATION，plantation 表示种植园或是大农场。 那么课文最后提到另外2种创造比较凉爽生活环境的传统方法，一个呢就是用石头来建造建筑物，一个呢就是在岩石上面来刻凿出房子，这些都是在过去呢世界各地都有使用的方法。好，单字 carve 它表示雕刻或是刻凿，那么 carve something into 或者是用 on 再加名词，就可以表达把某物刻在什么什么上，或者是从什么什么刻凿出某物的意思。好，那以上今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
While summer heat may be good for trips to the beach, it can be unpleasant and even dangerous. To protect ourselves from high temperatures, we usually turn to our air conditioning units. But AC wasn't invented until the early 1900s, so how did people stay cool before that? In the past, buildings were constructed to stay cool naturally. The Romans had large courtyards in the centers of their houses, which often had fountains and pools in them. These features allowed cool air to flow around the buildings. In Greece, houses were often painted white to reflect heat from the sun, and many Greek houses still use this technique. Similarly, some buildings in hot Middle Eastern countries have high ceilings that allow heat to rise and escape. In the southern United States, meanwhile, older houses often have porches, which were built to provide occupants with a space where they could enjoy an outdoor breeze, but be protected from the sun. Building structures out of stone or carving houses into rock are 2 other traditional methods of creating cooler living conditions that have been utilized across the world throughout the past.
Hey, it's KiWi on the street.
I'm Kiki.
And I'm Winnie. Say, Kiki, when we are saying words, we have to make sure that we are saying them clearly.
Oh, so we have to look out for our pronunciation. Well, today, let's work on that.
Let's work on our pronunciations. Okay.
Here is your recipe.
One more time.
Here is your recipe.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Here is a receipt.
Here's your receipt.
Here's your recipe.
One more time. Are you sure?
Here's your recipe.
Oh, so close. Here's your receipt. Different word. I know. Okay, we have?
Let's meet at 7:30.
Let's meet at 7:30.
Let's meet at 7:30.
Very good.
Aisle seats or window seat.
Aisle seat or window seat.
Oh, very close. Aisle. Okay,
Aisle
the
seat,
S is silent. Okay,
Oh.
good try.
That's a hard one.
What did we learn today?
Welcome to today's pronunciations, and today we will be focusing on silent consonants. Our first one is here's your receipt. Now, today we had a lot of folks kind of make this mistake and say recipe, but let's focus on the silent P. Let's pretend it's not even there and pretend it says S-E-A-T. So we say receipt, and you'll notice that you are showing all of your teeth and pushing air through the first 2 teeth. So receipt, seat. Okay, then we have let's meet at 7:30. Our silent consonant is the L in half. We won't say half, we will say half. Pretend it's H-A-F-F. Let's meet at 7:30. Then for our final pronunciation, we have aisle seat or window seat. This is usually when you're going to sit on a plane. For our silent consonant, we have an S in the word aisle. So it's not aisle or aisle, it's aisle. Be sure to not confuse this word aisle with the other word that's also pronounced aisle, which means island. Okay, but both words, we ignore the S. That's all for today. KiWi later.